Hi there. My name is Jim Babb. I'm the Director of Strategy at Part and Sum, and we're going to be talking today about kicking the tires of your idea. Before we get in, I just want to show you a little bit of some of the clients that we've had a chance to work on and do a bunch of projects on, just to give you a sense of the type of people that we're doing this process with all the time and every day. As well as just a little bit about us. We're a digitally native strategy firm. We bolt on to teams and help them uncover and action growth opportunities. And so people basically come to us for three things. They come to us for innovation, so helping them uncover and action new commerce opportunities, take advantage of those opportunities, and strategy. So once you have something, how do you actually go about investing across all the different things you could, and how do you prioritize those, and how do you actually get them done? And then growth. So our team has deep technical expertise in growth marketing. So everything from Facebook and Google and all those platforms, and how to connect them to actually drive business results. So we've got a little bit of sort of a sweet spot between the three of these, and that's why today we're going to talk a little bit about, well, how do you actually make something new, and how do you make sure it's not a waste of your time and spend a lot of time and money and effort building something that inevitably might not be successful. How do you go about doing that? Well, it should be easy. It just makes something people want, right? There you go. Well, turns out that it's not. Making stuff is hard. It's time consuming, it's expensive, and it's full of risk. And sometimes, how do you actually know if the thing that you're building is something that people are actually going to want? Well, at the same time, most creative and business ideas are going to fail, and it's more about having more times at bat, trying more things, doing it faster. You've heard the phrase "fail faster." Well, that's actually kind of true, because if you want to learn something and you're able to potentially pivot if you have more times to do it. So creating tight feedback loops with your potential customer increases your chance of success. So the faster that you put something out there, you hear about it, you listen to them, you can respond. The faster something maybe doesn't work, the faster you can try something else, right? And so we're going to talk about how you can actually use your marketing efforts to learn. And I think this is, when most people think about marketing, they think of it as sort of pushing out your message, but we're actually going to talk about it of using marketing as a way of listening, which is, I think, a pretty radical thing to try. So, and I think people think of it as sort of a broadcasting. That's actually literally how it was. Yesterday you made your product, and then you went and you marketed it, right? You build your box of cereal and you take it out there. And that's because marketing was one way. You existed in these channels like TV, print, radio, where everything was really just one to the mass. And so it actually affected how we iterated and how we made products. We built products for that world because that is how we could sell them. But today it's kind of a game changer, as the internet, as you watching this video on the internet, as we all exist all the time on the internet. It is multiple ways. It's not even just one-to-one. It's multiple. It's interactive. It's you can see around. Messages get spread around. They change. People pass them on. People edit it, mash things up, and that's kind of what marketing is like today. And so that means that just because marketing has changed in how we communicate with our customers, that's actually how we can make products now too. They no longer have to be made in a vacuum and be prepared to market something. In fact, you can find an audience and design a product for it, or you can make a product and just a little bit of it, or just like an image of it and not the whole thing, and show it to someone and see if they like it and go back and forth. And the idea is that you can refine your ideas in some sort of tandem with the people that are actually going to buy it, and that changes and hopefully makes for better products. So at the same time, you can really start first with your marketing, because marketing is far less expensive and far easier to do than pure building up that whole box of cereal and creating all the chemicals and going find the wheat and all that stuff and putting the box and designing it. You can start with the things that you're going to have to do anyway. So starting with marketing. So remember, making stuff is hard, but making marketing stuff is a lot easier, faster, and cheaper than making the product stuff. So here's a bit of a little graph that we made. It's very scientific, as you can tell, but it is basically on this the vertical axis is the level of learning, or as we kind of like to call it, validation. How valid is it a test of the real thing? And then the difficulty to make is on the x axis. And basically, your product is all the way up the top. If you have your product and you put it out there, you're going to find out really soon if it is successful or not. Whether it succeeds, it is like the best validation. But at the same time, if you don't have money, time, and you're trying to get things done more quickly, and you're trying to learn, and you're trying to increase your odds of success, so a lot of times you design a product, you get it, and you realize this one feature didn't work the way it did. Well, it wouldn't have been great to figure that out before you went through all the hoops to make that thing? And so that's what these other things are. So you can see they're kind of better at different things than other things. And so as you're thinking through how you might apply this to what you're working on, you can sort of pick and choose some features, some ideas, some things can be validated in small, light touch ways. Other ones need bigger sizing. So you've got organic social. It's easy to start a social channel before you even have a product, and you can start talking about the things that you want your product to be, or the feelings or the value, how you would talk about it, and to see other people interested in it. You can do that with paid ads. Paid ads are great because you can target individual groups of people. Can you try the same message in the same way that you'd market it to two different groups of people, moms and dads? Which one does it respond to? Who's your real customer? That can help you figure that out. Paper prototypes, so physical versions of the thing you might build. Is there a way to, like, if you're designing a game, you can do that with cards. If you're making some sort of experience that delivers information, say an app, you could do that with paper too. Mock websites, so Squarespace is very inexpensive. You can make a site and just have an email sign up. You can send people there through organic or paid social or through other methods, paid search. Are people looking for it? And when they come to your site, in how you're describing the features, you can figure that out on a website. What's nice about that is you're also figuring out, like, what are those core features for when you build a product, because maybe you think something's important, but it might not actually be to your customer. So it's a way to mimic how you're really going to code live and go with the market. Kickstarter, you can just launch it and see if there's demand. You can hold real life events inside that too. And then prototypes are, can you 3D print something? Can you make something a little bit closer than the full product, but just to make sure that the demand and it solves the problem that you think it does in the customer's life. So how do you use marketing to learn? Well, first you figure out what your biggest assumptions are. And so, like, what do you think is so true about this, but you're not actually quite sure. You haven't been proven on the fact there. And then you distill those assumptions into marketing materials. And then you put these marketing materials in front of the customer. And the last one here, I had to move myself out of the way, is you listen. So really, it's this is all an act of listening. Now that we have the capability of doing it through marketing channels, you can do it. It's marketing as research, but you have to be prepared to listen. So, yeah, like I said, assumptions are things that you think are true, but you actually don't know to be true. So what does an assumption look like? Well, for Airbnb, there's a few ones here that you could think about, right? So Airbnb had the assumption around the customer. Do people actually want to stay in other people's homes rather than hotels? Like, it's a little weird to just, show up at someone's house while they're not there and stay there, right? Or were people going to be interested in that? Homeowners, so do they have extra space? Do they have an extra home? Do they have a room in their house that they're willing to let other people come into? And then brand product. Are you going to trust this website to facilitate this thing? How do you build that to make sure? So those are a bunch of assumptions that Airbnb had when they were launching and thinking through their stuff. So how do you figure out which assumptions to test? Because there's a ton of them. There's always a bazillion things that go into every product, into every feature, whether it's digital or real. There's so many, right? And really what you have to do is you list them all out and list out those things that have to be true for this thing to work. And then which ones are the most unknown? Some things you feel pretty strongly about, and do you really need to test those? Some of them you don't. Some of them you maybe are a little unsure of, or at the same time, which ones are so paramount that if it's not true, the whole house of cards falls apart in your product. And that's really the ones that you need to go test, because those are the ones that you need to learn more about, because it helps you not only validate and make sure you should go forward with your product, but also maybe make tweaks along the way. So now that you've gotten your assumptions, what type of data will you need to validate them? What type of data will validate them for you, right? So you have these assumptions, and like I said, there's a bunch of different those tools out there, but which ones do you need to know? Like, which one should you use to get the right type of data back to you? So there's if you're the big question I always ask myself is, you are the investor, right? You may not, if it's a grassroots funded company, you may not have money, or you may not have that much. But like, what would a VC ask for before investing? Because that's what you need to do yourself, right? You need to think about yourself as that investor. It is your time, it is your money. You may be going asking other people, and a lot of these experiments can actually help you raise money too by helping validate the concept, show that there's demand, and that makes it a lot easier for someone to help you out. So that's a big thing. And then how would you show it's not a big risk, right? You're just trying to show that this thing's going to work. It's going to be 100% going to happen, and it's going to be successful. And what points of proof do I need to do that, right? And again, like, I think I really want to stress this, that you can make the case to others and you can do these experiments to raise money, but the first thing you have to do is for yourself, right? A lot of this is about not wasting your time. We all have great ideas all the time, or ideas we think are great, but you can spend a lot of time working on them, and because you want them to be perfect, and you want them to be inside, and you want to like release them and let the world know how amazing your idea is, and how awesome the time you've spent on it. But that perfection and that feeling is actually harmful. And so you have to make sure that you're making this case to yourself that I should put more time in this idea, because you could spend time in other ideas. And so really going back to this chart, thinking through the level of learning that you want to do and the difficulty to make, ideally you get a rhythm going, and you're starting with small and easy things, and you're learning more as you're validating more, and worthy more of your time to participate in it. And the idea is to get as real as possible, as fast as possible, because again, you also don't want to be constantly learning forever, or building a brand, or building out like an organic social following of something that's never coming to market. That's not worth your time either. So you have to push yourself. You have to keep your own momentum around figuring out what's working and what's not. So here's just a few examples of some things that some examples of ways that we've validated things in the past. So you can test it with ads. These were paid ads that we ran with our friends at E Entertainment Network. And really it was around testing how to position something, like the entire network, shows, things like that. And we could do that by actually targeting them at core fans, and looking at how people might engage with them, and how click-throughs, engagements, all the things you could track with them, and you could see which ones were the best ways of talking about a piece of content and positioning it with a certain audience. And that strength led us to make insights to pass that through. So it's a way, again, of doing research in maybe a non-traditional way. Another way you could do that is actually with prototypes. So here is a game that came out that BuzzFeed made, that we helped them make, and it was targeted at Gen Z and young millennials. And what's a better way than to make a quick prototype of the full version before you go and print a whole bunch of cards and launch it, and make the website and the assets and launch the whole thing, but to get that quick feedback loop of letting actual people play it as quickly as possible. So that's a way that you can do it. And this is a good way to learn around how something, and it's important in situations like when you're doing something like a prototype, that you're standing back and you're just kind of watching how people do it, because the more that you insert yourself in it, the less real it is. And you're trying to mimic how these things exist in the wild as much as possible, because that's where you get the real performance data of whether or not, and the real validation of whether it's going to work or not. And then you can test for asking people for money, right? So you can actually launch something. Again, how small you are and how big you are really determines your risk. So Lunarly is a product subscription service based on the lunar calendar, and it sends a whole bunch of items that help you kind of be more mindful and set your intentions. And the larger your bets are, the more that you can push that out there. Like, again, you don't have to think through every month for the whole year. You can start with, maybe we just make one box and we launch it and we get it out there and we make a site and we can actually send one out. Or you could make it lower risk and just capture email addresses. Like, again, it's really about where your risk threshold is and what you need to push yourself to the next level, or your group of stakeholders, whether those are internal or investors. It's really about designing the right validation methods for yourself. And so typically when you're thinking about this, it really comes down to the more scale that you get, the more feedback that you get, the better, mostly, right? And again, you're not making the case to the whole world here. You're making the case first to yourself. You want to learn as much as possible about your audience. This is a way to get in touch with your audience. It's a way of learning from your audience. You're not trying to hoax them. You're not trying to bait and switch them, but you want to put something forward as real as possible to be able to see, do they want it? Because you could ask them, but people self-report things all the time, right? And so let's talk a little bit, the last thing around how to listen. So, look for both qualitative and quantitative data, right? You want to make sure that you're getting a little bit of scale, but you also want to make sure you're getting the color around it that you can maybe make changes, like because you're eventually, as any business owner, as anyone who's created something knows, that you're never done. And so getting as much like color on your idea helps you continue to evolve it. And then, try to get full funnel data. So, if you don't have something to actually sell, if you can't get someone's credit card information to buy the thing, you're trying to get as far down that marketing funnel as possible. So yes, showing someone an ad is really great. If they click through it, even better. If they sign up for the email on the site, even better. If they pay for the thing, awesome. If they tell their friend about it, that's even greater. But some of these things are harder to do when you don't actually have the product. So that's why Kickstarter is so great, is that you're going to allow you to get as far down as possible to see kind of the demand. And then awareness and metrics are still good. Like they're still telling around this thing is popular. People want it. People like it. They like engaging with it. You just need to make sure you have the benchmarks to compare it to something similar to, how much better is it? Is it really solving enough of a problem for me to spend my time on it? And then acquisitions, like I said, are the best. And you just have to take what people say very carefully, like surveys, traditional research. Some of those things, people say a lot of things in a focus group, but that's not actually how they react. So you have to be pretty analytical, and that's why putting these things in the real marketplace, where people discover things and where people buy things, are where they don't think they are being a part of research, is actually the best place to conduct real-time, real feedback research and try to be empathetic with them as possible. So it's the hardest thing is listening, because you might not like what you hear. Again, you fall in love with your ideas. We all have ego in the things that we build. You wouldn't want to make something. You wouldn't want to be an entrepreneur. You wouldn't want to be an innovator if you didn't feel like you had a solution and you had something that you wanted to put out there. But you have to kind of divorce yourself a little bit from that. Otherwise, that's the biggest risk, is you just keep pushing forward something that's not that great. And so I wanted to just end on a note of what I call the atomic unit of marketing. And the reason why I think it's so interesting, the Facebook ad, to talk about, is that eventually every business, at least where I'm recording this, is going to sell somehow through Facebook. You're going to try organically. Your customers are there because so much of the world's there. You're going to try selling, somehow promoting your product through Facebook. And so using the structure of a Facebook ad and trying to distill your core product attributes into that, or into a variety of them, really gives a way of being able to test this. And it even helps you just articulate what your idea is in that sort of that tip of the iceberg kind of way, because it's hard. It's hard to force yourself. You only have, while you're flipping through your phone, there's only this much space to talk to someone. And we all know that's how so much media is consumed today and how people discover and find things. And so being able to try to simplify your ideas down to that is a really core challenge, and it's a really good one, because inevitably you're gonna have to do it anyway. So it's a good one to start with, and then you can actually try putting it in front of people, and that helps you get to that message of such clarity that is it worth going to the next phase of building the thing out? And so just sort of ending it with bringing it all together. How do you use marketing to learn, right? Which is really what this is all about today. First is you figure out your biggest assumptions. What are the knowns and unknowns there, and then you distill those down into marketing material. So how could I test that through an ad or a prototype or whatever, and then you put them in front of people, and you be prepared to listen in a variety of different ways through the data that they give, how they interact with it, what they say about it, and then really like sit on that feedback for yourself and make your next move and your next decision. So that's basically it. Thank you for watching this. You can subscribe to the channel, get some more information. That Facebook template, which is actually useful to do it, is on our site at partandsum.com if you want to check it out. You can feel free to reach out to me personally if you have any questions or you're working on your thing. Happy to always chat with people out there making stuff. And you can reach me at the email address here. And thanks so much. Bye.